So, very good morning, everyone joining us today, and a warm welcome to our session, How to Build a Premium Preschool That Parents Choose. So, before we begin, let me briefly introduce Hubble Explorers. Hubble Explorers is an early childhood education solutions provider with 20 plus years of experience in the early years space. We work closely with preschools to strengthen the learning experiences and support their academic and operational needs. Our solutions span curriculum, technology, teacher development, academic support, and enrichment programs, helping preschools create engaging and future-ready learning environments. At Hubble Explorers, we believe that premium is not just about what children learn, but who they become. And that is the thought we will explore today. I am Ms. Prachi Sharma, Senior Manager, Foundational Years at Hubble Explorers, and I'll be your host for today's conversation. I'm delighted to be joined by Ms. Aanchal Vasandani, Senior Vice President, Foundational Years at Hubble Explorers. With her extensive expertise in early years pedagogy and foundational learning, she will share her insights on the key elements that shape a meaningful and holistic preschool experience. Together, we will explore how preschools can build a premium proposition that benefits children and gives parents a reason to choose them. We have an engaging and interactive conversation lined up for you today. You'll also have opportunities to participate in poll questions. So we encourage you to share your responses. And please feel free to put in your thoughts and your questions in the chat box as we go along. We will take up as many of your queries as possible towards the end of the session. So good morning, Ms. Aanchal. It is a pleasure to have you with us today. Let me begin with a question that sets the context of our conversation. When we use the term premium preschool, what should that actually mean in the context of early childhood education?
So good morning, everyone. Thank you, Prachi. A warm welcome to the audience here today. So coming to your question, Prachi, a premium preschool should definitely not be defined by the beautiful interiors or the expensive infrastructure or the number of facilities it offers, or definitely not the fees it charges. So when we talk about a premium, when we talk of a premium in early childhood, I think we should really be asking ourselves, what is the quality of experience we're giving the child? Is the curriculum thoughtfully designed? Are the children given opportunities to explore, create, question, communicate, or make choices? Are teachers able to understand and customize or cater to the needs of individual children? Is there a clear sense of progression in their development? And definitely, are they involving parents in the learning journey of the children? Because I think even NEP and CF today are talking about making parents equal contributors in the child's learning journey. So now let me give an example. There are two preschools. Both of them have beautiful classrooms, but one is intentionally using their resources to help children learn, investigate, create, solve problems together. While the other one has simply selected the resources just to make the classroom look beautiful or the preschool look beautiful. So I believe that is the experience that makes it premium, when you choose the resources and use it in such a way that the children are able to take their learning journey forward. So premium is not about how much a preschool has, but it is definitely how thoughtfully it is using that to create value for the children and parents.
So that's very true. And that's the question I believe we all have to ask ourselves. So that leads us to the next question. So once a preschool decides that it wants to build a premium proposition, where should it begin?
So in my view, I think the first step is to ask ourselves one important question. And that is, what kind of children do we want to nurture through our preschool experience? So we all know that today parents are looking they're looking beyond school readiness. They all want their children to develop all the future ready skills like communication, creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, confidence, and persistence. But do you think these skills developed just because we mention them in our curriculum or we list them in our brochures? I think they develop when we regularly implement this in our classroom experiences that we provide our children. So the real question here is, are we intentionally creating these experiences every day that will help our children build these skills? So let me give you one example here. Children can develop communication and confidence through conversations, through storytelling, and they can develop creativity as well as aesthetic sense through art activities. They can develop collaboration here through activities where we group them together, where they're solving some challenges, team challenges, and so on. And they can also develop independence and decision making through life skill activities that we provide in the classroom. So I think here the starting point is to have a clear vision for the whole child, and then ensure that our curriculum, the classroom experiences that we give them, our pedagogy, everything is aligned to give these children a holistic experience.
So my next question is going to be on the same terminology, holistic development. However, before we begin, we need to take an audience poll, and we have a question for you all. We would like you all to answer this question before we move on to our next very important thought. So let me quickly share the poll question with you all. So you can see the question on your screen. What are parents looking for when they approach a preschool for admission? I will pause here for a minute, and I would request all of you to put in your responses. We still have participants voting in, so I'll wait for a few seconds more. Great. So there's an interesting mix of responses which I have got here. So most of the participants have, of course, voted the combination of all the things which we have given as an option. So the first question was that first option was the parents are looking for academics and school readiness. The second is holistic development. The third is safe, caring, and nurturing environment, which we all know in preschool environment does take a cake. But the fourth one, which has come in as a very strong contender, is a combination of all these. So thank you so much for sharing your responses. Let's move to the next question. However, the entire response which I have received now shows that the parents are clearly looking beyond to the obvious services which they have been receiving thus far. So let's start with the next question. So why is holistic development such an important part of the preschool's value proposition right now, Ms. Aanchal?
So as early educators, we all know that children don't develop in compartments. They're learning, yes, they're learning early academic concepts, but at the same time, they're developing other skills which I mentioned. They're developing confidence, communication, creativity, motor skills, because they're in that learning, developing stage, social skills, independence, and decision making. So here, let me explain this through some examples. Okay, when children engage in role play, they're not just pretending. They're developing their language, their vocabulary, imagination when they're taking up different roles, social understanding, how to communicate with each other, how to allow others to speak, take turns, as well as confidence. Then when we give them any group activity, like maybe some STEAM challenge or something, so here they learn to work together. So they learn, again, collaboration. They are looking at negotiation, making decisions, as well as problem solving. When we do simple music and movement activities, so your children are not just learning how to just move or swing to the songs. They're learning rhythm. They're memorizing the lyrics. So memory comes in here, as well as self-expression. You see children just dancing, not, just swaying. So here, this is a way of self-expression. Whereas when we give them simple activities like putting their things away, putting the toys away, picking up their stationery, putting it in the cupboard. So here we are developing life skills, independence. So in this way, even though we don't realize, but the holistic development of the children is happening. And I think this is a meaningful part of a preschool's value proposition.
So that makes a lot of sense, because people keep on hearing the word holistic development, but they would not understand what it actually means. Now, coming to the next question, if a preschool has already decided and they would want to focus on holistic development, and this terminology is often discussed, but how can preschools translate it into actual experiences for children?
So I think this is where experiential learning comes in, and it's an important part of our preschool years. So we all know children learn best when they get opportunities to actually do, explore, create, experiment, and collaborate rather than simply listen to the teacher. So it's not actually about adding more activities into the timetable. Every experience that we have for the children should have a purpose and help children develop specific skills. Again, I'll give you an example. So when children are playing with blocks, they're developing problem solving and collaboration. Here, when we give them certain music and movement activities, we should allow children sometimes to create their own rhythm, create their own music, or a movement sequence. So all these things together will actually give them an opportunity for experiential learning rather than just following instructions of the teacher. And all this eventually will build future ready skills, because in future we don't know, knowledge is available today at the tap of the fingertips, right? I mean, you just go into Google and you get, today you have chat GPT and all those GPTs. But what will actually help them are these future ready skills, the confidence, the resilience, the persistence. And this can only happen if we have experiential learning into the curriculum. So I think the ultimate goal is to go beyond doing activities and to create meaningful experiences that will help them to develop these skills.
That's absolutely true, because at times the parents are in a dilemma that where to send our child for gaining such experiences, because preschools at times are still concentrating on their foundational literacy and numeracy. Having said that, that becomes their core skills. However, meaningful experiences is something which, yes, we need to aim at. So before we move on to how these experiences can be implemented, we would like to understand what some of you may be experiencing in your own preschools. So again, I'm going to show up a poll-based question on your screen. Please put in your responses and let us know what do you feel. So this is an interesting mix of responses which I have received. So the question was, what is the biggest challenge you face in offering rich learning experiences? So we have had options like finding time within the existing schedule, preparing and supporting teachers, because we know that the training is one of the integral part of running such experiences. And of course, access to resources or infrastructure that will respond to such experiences. And the fourth was making the learning visible to parents. So the interesting mix of votes have come in here. However, my top rated option is making the learning visible to parents. So let's move ahead with our discussion, keeping that response in our mind. So again, now leading to the next question, if a preschool wants to create this kind of rich experiential learning environment consistently, what does that require in practice? Does it require an infrastructure or does it require something else?
That's a pertinent question, Prachi. So instead of having a calendar of activities or adding different enrichment classes, I think what preschools need is a structured approach. So where every experience will have a clear developmental goal, they would be age appropriate, built progressively, as well as it is supported by trained teachers, like just like the poll that you put. So I think we need all of these. So for example, if you're doing a building challenge, giving children blocks, a 2 to 3 or a 3 to 4 year old child might, the challenge for them is just to explore the shapes and to learn how to balance their structure, the building of blocks.
Yeah.
But for a 4 to 6, that same challenge has to become progressive. So here we would tell them to build, maybe design a bridge that can hold some weight, where they will test their bridge, test the model that they've made, and again try what went wrong if it is not sustaining, and keep trying. So through this, we again building critical thinking, problem solving, persistence, not giving up. So that is what I mean. Every experience needs to be progressively challenging for the child, and at the same time, it should develop all the skills that I spoke about. Then secondly, teachers also need the right guidance and resources so that they can spend less time on researching what to teach, and rather than they should focus on what kind of questions to ask the children when they're involved in those activities, how to make it more, how to scaffold their learning.
Correct.
And this way help children to develop more of critical thinking and resilience. Then the next most important thing, what I think was in the poll, is resources. So I think if a preschool can use the resources what is easily available for them in their own environment in the preschool, or something that is got from the house, the household materials. So I think that will make these activities simpler to execute, as well as easy for the children to follow, rather than having very expensive or complex resources or equipment. So I think this is where our structured enrichment program like Play Labs can help bring all these elements together.
So that's indeed insightful. So the slide which I have put up on the background, I think it talks about all the 21st century skills which are in demand and which are going to be the future skills, which the prospective recruiters and the employers would be looking at. However, you talked about structured approach, you talked about teachers, practical support, and so on and so forth. So you talked about various principles. Now, the participants and we all are eager to know, how does Play Labs help preschools bring these principles together? How does it work in practice?
So this is the thinking behind Play Labs, what we just saw on the slide. So Play Labs is a curriculum first enrichment ecosystem, which is designed to help preschools create meaningful, enriching, experiential learning opportunities that go beyond their core academic program. So here, we're not interfering with their academic program that is already existing. This is something that will take the children beyond that. Here we have 5 specialized programs. That is, as you can see on the screen, we have the Storytellers Club, the STEAM Lab, Artist Club, Fitness Club, and the Life Skills Lab. So while each of them focus on different skill sets, together, they're creating a whole child and building 21st century skills. Those skills I've already mentioned, and we saw on the previous slide, those communication, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and all of that. Now, let me give you some examples. So say Storytellers Club. Through Storytellers Club, the teacher's narrating a story. The children here are developing their communication skills, vocabulary, and then they dramatize, they pick up roles. So let me just give you how it progressively moves on. I'll give you a simple example of a story, say Lion and the Mouse. Okay. For a 2 and a 3-year-old, because they cannot learn dialogues. So here the teacher groups them, makes one group the lion and the other group the mouse. So here the the teacher will narrate the story and the children will simply enact and make sounds. Whereas when they become 4 and 5-year-olds, here we give them a little more, you can say, complex activities when it comes to storytelling. So here they will speak certain dialogues and they will enact the whole story. Coming to STEAM Lab, I already gave you the example of the building blocks. So this is how the whole activities become complex and it is progressive. Similarly, in Artist Club, where we're encouraging creativity and self-expression, here the children are not simply coloring within the lines or painting inside, outline. Here, the children are exploring different techniques and different tools, and they create their own artwork. So, this is one way of developing aesthetic sense and self expression. Coming to Fitness Club, this we all know it supports coordination. Our focus is definitely on building teamwork, because that is again the demand of future ready skills, where they will learn to work, collaborate in teams when they go out in the real world. And coming to Life Skills Lab again develops independence, decision making through simple activities. Here we also have something where we focus on financial literacy, pre-coding skills, and learning about their whole environment, focusing on conservation and all of that. So now again, these are not just simply 5 programs that I've spoken. Each one I told you has a clear learning journey. They're age-wise, there is a progression, and we've defined the competencies for the teachers. So the teachers know why they're doing this activity and what skills will get developed through this activity. So they're not simply just following it. So here we also provide training to the teachers to execute this in the real way or in a meaningful manner. So again, here we're not focusing on simply just doing activities. It is actually building skills progressively.
So that's quite impressive, and looks like Play Labs is a very comprehensive program, because at times the activities are ready with the preschools, but they aren't sure how to incorporate or execute them in their environment, preschool environment, or how to train the teachers. But if a program like Play Labs is available, which has the lesson plans, which has the activities, and as you rightly mentioned, the progressive way of conducting the activities, I think that's going to be really helpful for all the leaders of the preschools as well as the teachers. Now that leads to another pertinent question. Once these experiences are in place, how can preschools make children's learning visible to parents?
I think this was what got maximum vote also in the poll. So definitely this is a crucial part of a premium preschool proposition. So parents should not just be hearing what children did. Schools are sending circulars saying, okay, this is what the children learned. But this is not making them collaborate with the child's learning. So actually what parents need to do is they need to understand what the children are learning and seeing those experiences come alive beyond the classroom. So in Play Labs, our facilitators observe the children. We have something called a tracker, where the children are being tracked on the various competencies that they're building. So it's called a competency tracker. And they mark into the tracker, and this is sent to the parents. So the parents know exactly what the child is learning. So learning becomes visible to them, as well as at the end of every program, we've created certificates for the children. So this is a recognition of the milestones that they've developed. So again, this makes also learning more meaningful and complete. So here the learning is becoming visible through something also called culminating. So at the end of the term, each term, that is twice in a year, we've planned culminating activities where parents will be invited and children will showcase their learning to the parents. They will demonstrate what they have learned. It could be through experiments that were done during the STEAM lab activities. It could be some art activity where the parents will engage with the child and do it during the culminating, or it could be any other life skills that children have learned and they will showcase it to the parents. And when it comes to Storytellers Club, they will actually dramatize and play roles and show parents. So this is where parents can actually then come and experience the learning that has happened, as well as then this whole enrichment becomes meaningful, measurable, and visible.
That really sounds fun, because it has everything for everyone. So for teachers, it has competency trackers, because they don't have to wonder what to assess and when. For children, it has certificates. And for parents, they get to see real action when they are invited in the culminating events. So that's wonderful. Making our conversation move ahead, we have spoken about the learning children gain from enrichment and how preschools can make that learning visible to parents. But for a preschool leader, there is another practical question. What does it take to bring these experiences into the school? Does it mean additional funds? So again, we are pausing here and we would like to hear from all our preschool leaders who have joined us today. There is another poll question coming onto your screen and we would like you all to give us your responses. Wait for a few minutes for all of you to vote. Great. So again, there's an interesting mix of responses which I have got. So the question was, when considering a new enrichment program, what would be the most important cost consideration for your preschool? We know that as leaders of preschool, we are always bothered about the funds, the additional requirement of infrastructure, and various other cost implications. So the options which we had given were whether we need more funds for infrastructure or space, whether we need additional cost to be incurred for equipment, for teacher training, or how we can make it affordable in the budget which we already have received. So maximum votes took this particular option, that we are looking at overall affordability of the program. So let's move on to our next question, which is, of course, a very pertinent one, which says, premium proposition is often associated with significant investment in infrastructure, or that's what everyone believes. Does creating a premium learning experience necessarily require expensive equipment or specialized spaces? Do you think the parents are very much concerned about that area?
Not necessarily, Prachi. So a premium experience is ultimately about the intentional pedagogy, not expensive infrastructure. So what matters here is how thoughtfully these resources and spaces are used. I just mentioned that Play Labs is designed around everyday classroom resources, stationery, household ingredients, building materials, whatever is available in the classroom, like blocks, beads, could be anything. Art materials, again, all preschools have art materials like crayons, paints, brushes, and so on. Recyclable materials when they're doing best out of waste. So for that, we need recyclable materials and existing classroom furniture. So your spaces can also be used flexibly. Example, like a classroom can become an art space, easily become an art space. An open area can support the physical development, that is a fitness club that we have, all the activities for the fitness club. A cozy reading corner in a preschool can become a storytelling space for the storytellers club. So this idea here is actually to create flexible learning environments rather than having specialized infrastructure which will incur costs for the preschools. For each and every program, we've kept that in mind. So without making any huge investments, this program can easily be implemented and taken forward.
So that's quite an important perspective for our preschool leaders to take away, with no specialized labs requirement, no expensive equipment, resources which can be sourced easily, as you said, from the kitchen of the preschools, minimal recurring investment. So all that, they look quite lucrative. And I'm sure that leaves our preschool leaders with a positive thought. Going ahead with our discussion, how can a well-designed enrichment program strengthen a preschool's overall value proposition? Because that is something which is always bothering the preschool leaders, that even if they have a well-designed enrichment program, will it strengthen their value, or will they be able to attract more admissions? So that's the question for you, Ms. Aanchal.
So in my view, here it creates value at 3 levels, all the 3 stakeholders: the child, the parents, and the preschool. So for the child, it provides rich and more purposeful developmental experiences, which are progressive, and therefore it supports their holistic development. For parents, it is giving them greater visibility because they can see the tracker, they can witness the culminating, as well as they can see all the learning come alive when the children express the same, take it forward at home. So it's learning beyond the classroom. And we're engaging parents. So definitely they have more visibility and they're happy at the end of the day. For preschool, it's creating a more differentiated proposition. And also they can support parent engagement, which will eventually lead to more admissions and better retention. Again, here, this is also a business opportunity for preschools. They can use this program as an after-school program. They can use it for holiday camps. They can use it in their daycare, as well as they can integrate into their curriculum, which is happening, regular curriculum. So all this is creating a better business opportunity for them. So again, Play Labs, summarizing it, Play Labs is creating value for the child, the parent, and the preschool, and thus making this more lucrative for all preschools.
Very well said. And that certainly gives us some food for thought because it's flexible, it's cost effective, and it can be managed in-house. So that's lovely.
And making learning visible for parents.
And making learning visible, as you rightly said. So now that brings us to an important final question. Beyond the activities a program offers, what should a preschool leader actually evaluate before making that decision? Because when they receive brochures from multiple vendors, it talks about NEP, it talks about NCF. However, how to get into the depth and understand whether that enrichment program actually will give them any returns or not?
So I think preschool owners should look beyond those labels that vendors or anybody who's offering any programs are putting up, like play-based, experiential learning, holistic development, NEP or NCF aligned. And they should ask a few questions. What are children actually developing? For example, I told you, if there is a storytelling activity, are children actually just listening to the story, or they have opportunities to develop their vocabulary, develop confidence through role-playing, dramatization, or communication, imagination, expression? That is the first question. Secondly, they should ask, is there a clear age-wise progression? Again, what I spoke earlier about. Are those activities progressively complex? Are they building critical thinking in the children, or the children are just following instructions of the teachers? Are 3-year-old and 5-year-olds doing the same activity? So definitely they should look out for clear age-wise progression. Then the third, whether teachers are appropriately supported. Is the curriculum letting teachers know the competencies the children are developing? Are they training the teachers for it? And training in the real sense, actually helping them to follow the curriculum. And fourth, is the child's progress observed and tracked? Is it going beyond simply just checking the activities are completed? So are those milestones listed in some tracker and the teachers are observing and marking them? And finally, how is this actually communicated to parents? So these are what I think all preschool owners should look for when they're going in for any other programs to integrate into their preschool curriculum.
So that's quite a list which you have given to us, because that can act as a checklist, and leaders who are still contemplating which program to get into, or otherwise start an after school program, or are thinking to run summer camp differently from next year, or are planning to extend the time of their preschool from 2.5 hours to 3 hours, however, wondering what can be done in that half an hour beyond writing or beyond completing the worksheets. I think this program will really help them to take the decision. So thank you so much, Ms. Aanchal. I think this insightful information gives our preschool leaders a useful way to think about premium, which is not simply providing more facilities or activities, but the enriching and the visible learning experiences for children and also to the parents. So the audience, I would request, if you have any questions, if you can type in your chat box, and I'll be more than happy to pick those up and present it to Ms. Aanchal on your behalf. So we have an interesting question from one of our participants, ma'am. The question is, how can parents become more involved in this kind of learning?
So I already mentioned that in this kind of program, we have parents' involvement throughout. We have a tracker that goes to parents. We also have the culminating activities that are happening twice in a year. And again, the schools will be sending circular to the parents to let them know what is happening and the competencies that are developed in the children, not just telling them what is happening. So this way, I think parents can be involved at every stage in this thing. Here, I would also like to add one thing which I mentioned earlier. For parents, this is a very lucrative proposition because here, if they're sending the children to preschool, they need not again pick them up in different classrooms for different programs. Here, within the same and safe and whatever the child's environment the child is familiar environment, the child can continue learning these different programs. So it saves time as well as a parent is satisfied that my child is learning.
So that's I think is quite useful information. Another question which I'm receiving is, so if a preschool is already running successfully, do you still think that the preschool should ponder upon starting an enrichment program at their center? And so if again, yes, where should it start?
So I wouldn't suggest them to change everything at once. So if they're already doing well, I think they first need to look at what they're doing and identify how they can add greater value to whatever they're doing, a greater differentiation. So they can ask, what is our preschool already known for? Then what are the parents, what do the parents value the most? And where and how they can offer more richer and distinctive experience for the children. So I think the initial thing, they can choose 1 or 2 programs, implement it, see how the clear learning objectives are coming to life. The progression can be seen by parents, the teachers are supported well, how the children are responding, and finally, if parents are seeing any value. And then they can gradually adopt more programs. So they need not necessarily reinvent their preschool. They can just build on whatever they have and take those strategic steps to move ahead.
Great. So what you're saying is that this program can be sandwiched within the existing preschool scenario. They need not revamp their execution, the methodology, the pedagogy, or the setup.
No infrastructure. Yeah.
No infrastructure. So that's lovely. That I believe will help the preschool leaders to take the important decision now. So somebody in the chat box requested me to show them the tracker slide again. So hence I am on that visual. I've been getting a lot of queries. Somebody is asking that, what does PlayLab constitute? Does it constitute only content, or are there any other variables will it have? So if you could throw some light on that bit as well.
So PlayLabs, of course, we're providing content, but those are through rich, purposeful activities which are developmentally appropriate, age appropriate. Now, these activities, again, I mentioned, are progressive. So a 2 and 3-year-old will be doing something which is at a lower level, and then a 4 and 5-year-old will build upon those skills. So it's like a spiral way of approaching this curriculum, as well as you can say at the end of it, these children have developed all the future ready skills through our life skills lab. They're learning different skills that will help them in the real world when they step out, as well as simple things like pre-coding, which will help them in robotics later on when they go into the higher grades, and financial literacy, like simple things of how to save money, how to use money in simple transactional activities, which will again help them understanding about how to save money, which is very, very important at this stage. True. So all these things are an important part of the PlayLabs curriculum.
So again, I have got a question where the participant is asking, will the teachers be trained as part of the PlayLabs curriculum?
Definitely. So we all know that simply giving a list of activities or instructions to the teachers is not enough. So we have training for the teachers as well as the preschool owner at the start of the program. And where we will actually take them through the entire program, which is hosted on a learning management system. So how to use that learning management system is also taken into the training. And we have a support system, a support help line where somebody will be always answering your questions, whichever you post, anytime, anywhere. So that is, I think, the kind of support we're giving teachers. So the teachers are eventually learning why they're doing this activity, not simply just following the activities. And this will help them to implement those activities effectively in the classroom.
Great. Somebody has also put how much extra time has to be devoted for such program? Are there any recommendations? Are there any requirement?
So I mentioned this program, it is very flexible. So you can use it as an after school program. You can run it into your daycare program. You can also integrate it into your actual curriculum that you're implementing. So it's not about how much time, it is how you're utilizing it. It is very flexible. You can implement one program for 1 hour in a day. So if you're taking all 5 programs, so obviously 5 hours is something that you can do only in maybe a holiday camp that you're doing. So here you may select one program a day. So 1 hour. Today you do fitness club, maybe tomorrow you do artist club. Day after you can do the STEAMS lab and so on. So it's 1 hour a day is enough if you're doing it as an after school program or even in your daycare program.
I think that quite a comprehensive answer, and people will understand how they can manage the things in their preschool. Another question is, do they need to hire specialized teachers to run such program?
Definitely not. I think our preschool teachers are early childhood educators, and I think they understand the children, this age children, the best. So I think you don't need to have specialized teachers. Our curriculum has very simple instructions for the teachers to follow, and it is all on LMS. So teachers can also view it anytime, prepare for their activities, maybe a day prior, 2 days prior, 1 hour before the session. So, and they're very given in simple language. So I don't think you need specialized teachers, and also we'll be training them at the start of the program.
So another question, rather a statement or yeah, so that is where this person is asking for the reference. If school is starting play labs as an after school activity, there wouldn't be any confusion or clashes in the school curriculum and the play lab curriculum if they are run together. So they are wondering whether there will be any confusion among parents or whether there will be a clash of the curriculum. How can we help the person understand that these are two separate curriculums or they both are enriching curriculums which will help in the development of the child?
I said this will not disturb the regular academic program that you're running in the schools, because this can be used like an after school program. Today, parents are definitely looking out for such different activities for their children. They put them in some fitness thing somewhere else, then they put them for some art classes somewhere else. So here you need to just let your parents know that these programs are offered now within the comfortable and safe environment that the children are already used to. So the parents need not drop, pick up. They can continue this program in the same preschool that they're sending their children.
That I believe would be very, very convenient for the parents, and especially nuclear parents who have to have children in the preschools and then send them to the daycare and then again move around to collect them from various classes and then bring them home. Everything under one roof. I think that would be wonderful, and that will solve a lot of picking up and transit issues. So, okay, let me see if I have any other question. I think we have covered more or less all the questions. Are there any more questions, participants? Yeah. Then you can put it on chat box. Great. So another question we have is the admission counselor, if trying to get the conversion done for any such enrichment program with the prospective parents, what all the counselors should cover in the discussion?
So I think once you've enrolled, we will be giving you this kind of a presentation that you can use. Also, the brochure that we share has all the skills covered for each of these programs, plus the how learning is going to be visible for the parents. So I think using all these, the academic counselor can promote these clubs or this enrichment program for the parents. We can also support. If you have any further support that you require, you can always reach out to us and we will see how best we can help you.
I think that answers the question. I have one more message. So another question is that what are the best ways to hire quality teachers and retain them for longer tenure? If you can share a few tips around this area.
So I think quality teachers, definitely first, I think we look at the resume, whether they've done their ECCAT from a good and known place, like a university, it could be like SNDT or so on, or some deemed university, could be anything. Secondly, we always have a demo session for the teachers. So you have to have that demo session and see, and let it be in a live classroom. See how they are interacting with the children, how they're making, how they're communicating, how they are, allowing children to ask questions. Because I think these are very important ways to gauge whether the teacher is a good teacher and she's going to be more interactive in her sessions, rather than just being a teacher and allowing children just to be passive learners. So I think this is an important part of recruitment. Now, retention is something I think all schools are facing. But I think as a preschool leader, if you give her the facilities that are offered in other competitors, by other competitors, I think you should be able to retain the teacher.
That's quite a
normally teachers leave if they get better facilities in somewhere else. So I think if you give all those,
as you rightly said, this challenge is faced with most of us. So I believe this tip might help. Another question we have in the chat box is, can this program be taken by the students who are not part of the existing preschool? So is it open for the students who are the outside students as well?
Yes, definitely. If you're running it as a after school program or a holiday camp, you can keep it open for anybody, because I told you, this is an independent program. It's not something that is going to replace your curriculum, nor is it something that is aligned to what you're teaching. These are separate skills that we're developing. Of course, you would be addressing those skills in your curriculum also, or these children, wherever they are going to other preschools also, they will be learning. But this is like an extension to their learning. So normally preschools are all about getting them school ready. So the focus is mainly on literacy, numeracy. Here we are helping you to focus on other skills beyond literacy and numeracy.
So another interesting question I have is that how this program is progressive. Do we have activities for each age group, or do we have one set of activities which can be taken by all the children together? So how is it structured?
So we have 4 levels, 1, 2, 3, 4. So according to us, a level 1 would be around for a 2 to 3 year old. 2 would be for 3 to 4, and so on. But of course, it's flexible again. So it's up to schools. You may just stick 2 levels and you can combine, like say a 2 to 4 can be in one group, 4 to 6 can be in the other group. So you can combine the classrooms and you can take the entire program, and then because there are 40 activities in each program, so you can just keep running. Maybe you start with the 2 to 3 year old activities, and then once those activities are over, you pick up the 3 to 4 year old activities. So the children who are combined in that age group 2 to 4 will get 80 activities.
Great. So now we have a lot of nitty-gritties based questions coming in, inquiries. So I believe, so we'll stop it here, and we would invite you all for a demo. Let me brief the session, and let's close the session here. We will talk about how the Play Labs program can be implemented in your preschool. However, for that, you will have to reach out to our team. So today's discussion basically talked about a premium preschool is not necessarily one that offers more. It must create intentional experiences, support teachers, make development visible to the parents, and of course, make the parents see the difference. Play Labs is hence a structured way to bring that proposition to life in the preschools. Now, before we wrap up, if you would like to learn more about Play Labs or would like to explore a demo for your preschool, we will be sharing a form with you. Please fill in your details and our team will get in touch with you to understand your requirements and take you through Play Labs more in details. Since all of you have been talking about, give us some more examples about STEAM activity, how should be the fee be structured if it is open for the school students who are outside the preschool, what would be the kit given, and so on and so forth. So all these questions will be answered when you take up the demo with us. So my colleague has already sent the link in the chat box. So you all can share your details there. Also on the screen, I have put up the contact details of Hubble Explorers, WhatsApp number, as well as the website. So you can reach out to the website or you can fill in the form. I would prefer fill in the form so that there is no lag between our team reaching out to you and we can present a demo to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for being the lovely audience. And thank you so much for Ms. Aanchal for your insightful conversation. And I'm sure preschool leaders have learned a lot about how to run the enrichment programs and if they are running, how to make them effective.
Thank you everyone for attending this, and I hope our session was enlightening for all of you. Thank you.